Hello, good people. I want to talk about my weight loss journey and what I have learned over the years and give a sneak peek into what I have been doing that has me losing weight for the last time. So, a little bit about myself. I am a middle-aged suburban wife, mother. I work for a Fortune 500 company. I'm remote. So over the years, I have picked up weight and I have tried to get it off. I have always been slender and, lifestyle changes, things happen. So I wasn't so slender. And now I would like to get back to being healthy. The unique thing about me is that I have been a vegan. I've been a vegan since 2015. And I feel that going to veganism definitely helped, and I can do a whole separate video on that. But I didn't go vegan to lose weight. At the time, I just had a kid and I was breastfeeding, so the weight had just shed. So definitely wasn't about the weight at that point. It was about the animals and it was about the environment. But again, can do a separate chapter all on that on itself. However, I realized that I picked up the weight over the years. Being a vegan, especially back in 2015, kind of meant, more fast food, French fries, salads when going out. Now, thankfully, and now what is 2024 at the filming of this, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of options that simply weren't there before. So you live a busy lifestyle. You have 2 young kids and a husband who all 3 are not vegan. They are what they call omni-eaters. They're omnivore eaters. They eat everything, including meat. We kind of had to transition as a family. And doing all that, it was a change, and it's been a change over the years. But one of the things that I began to realize is that, veganism in itself wasn't going to do it. So before I became a vegan, I was watching The Biggest Loser and I was motivated. Okay, let's get some of this weight off after my first kid. Dr. Ian Smith, wonderful. No complaints about him per se. Jillian Michaels just ran after what they were doing. So I did the Fat Smash Diet, had the book. And it worked for the most part. I was losing a few pounds. But of course, once I got off of it, I kind of gained it right back. I didn't lose a ton of weight on that. What I then went to was juicing and cardio. And that whoosh, just shed the weight. And again, this was before I turned 30. So that seemed to have made sense. I was motivated by money. I got a bonus every year. My husband promised me all of the bonus check. Instead of it going to the household, it would go to me, my personal account, if I lost the weight. And that was great motivation. And I did it, and I lost the weight. And I have the pictures to prove it. However, I slowly started to gain the weight back a bit once I got pregnant with my second kid. And after that kid, again, breastfeeding, the weight went down, but then I decided to go vegetarian and then ultimately vegan. So I kind of turned back to the 4-day diet. Again, Dr. Smith. Again, wonderful, great, but I didn't stick with it. I wasn't planning my meals. And I realized I had an incredible urge for sweets at night. I'm one of those people where you end the meal, you end your dinner on a nice something sweet. Just something sweet, just something small, something sweet, nothing major, just to end the evening like I deserved it or something for some reason. Not really sure why, but that's how it was. So again, in veganism, I realized, okay, that wasn't working either. I decided to do intermittent fasting. So I tried intermittent fasting and I lost some weight and I felt good at it, and it just kind of became natural. And no big qualms. But then I just started noticing, like, I would start eating a lot during my window. And I would snack a lot during my window. And I'd be looking at the clock, waiting for my window to close, like, oh, do I need to get any last minute meal in here or last minute snack in here, really? Not really big on like, oh, I didn't end with a huge meal, but I would just like second guess, like, oh, are you really full? I don't think you're full. Your window's about to close. Go get something to eat. And I just didn't like the effects on it. I started reading more about how fasting may affect hormones. And at the time, I knew I was dealing with fibroids. Fibroids ran in my family. I didn't have fibroids until I got pregnant. They grew in pregnancy. And then after both of my pregnancies, they shrunk. And then all of a sudden, they just surged back. So I knew I was dealing with fibroids, a growing uterus. And so I wanted to do something, and I started to read where fasting may not be the best for those with, for women, maybe even particularly Black women, not sure, but for women, especially if they have a hormonal imbalance. So at first I just like, oh no, it's probably not that big a deal, but I just kind of started listening to it like, okay, well, it's working, but it's only working when I like switch up my dates. Like I would have to do a week of just random windows, and that just didn't seem sustainable. Kind of became a little too much. So I'm like, okay, let me just try a more wholesome lifestyle. Let me try whole foods. Let me try fully plant-based. So that's just not vegan, right? Let's cut out some of the vegan junk. Let's cut back on the oils and the salts. So I went what they called whole food, plant-based, no extra added salt, oil, or sugar. And I did that for a while. And I learned about Dr. Michael Greger, and I bought his cookbook. I had learned about how not to die. I had went on the Facebook groups and learned a little bit about what he had going on and what it meant to be whole food plant-based, what his review of the research showed, and decided to give it a try. There was a local chef, vegan chef in our area who had a support group. So I joined her support group on Facebook and I kind of dived in. It was great because we were all vegan, of course. He promotes a vegan lifestyle. So I learned about the fundamentals of how not to die. And even though I didn't read the book, I did purchase the book for my mom, but I didn't read the book myself. It's a big, hefty book. And it's definitely well worth the read. I just felt, I gleaned the information elsewhere. And I then downloaded the Daily Dozen app right in the App Store and decided to go for it. Let me make sure I was getting my my vegetables in. Let me make sure I was getting my grains in. Let me, again, no added salt, no added sugar, no added oils. And make sure I'm getting good healthy fats. My nuts, make sure I was getting those pre-portioned out. Good to go. I was checking off the boxes, but I wasn't too consumed with tracking. And not much changed. So then I said, okay, well, let me add intermittent fasting to that. And not much changed. And so I said, okay, let me track. So I went back to old tools that I used when I was doing Dr. Ian's, like Lose It. Didn't really like Lose It, so I let me do MyFitnessPal. So I did MyFitnessPal. And again, I found myself too focused on the caloric intake. I was somewhat obsessed about the calories. Didn't want to go over, could not go over, but was clearly still hungry or still clearly had what I thought were hunger pains. So again, tried to go back. Okay, then he came out with How Not to Diet. He meaning Dr. Greger. It's like, okay, so I didn't buy the book, but I did buy the cookbook, How Not to Diet. How Not to Diet by Dr. Greger. So it's like, okay, let me try this. Let me, focus in. It's easy to add in some additional things that he mentions, like cayenne and cumin and things like that. Like, okay, let me try. I found the recipes a bit overwhelming, and that may be because of my lifestyle. Again, I am a mother and a wife, and I am still the main preparer of meals in our home and have been since the beginning. So I needed to cook essentially almost 2 meals. I had gotten to a place where like our sides and vegetables and the accompaniments, like any butter or cheese or milk or whatever in the house was vegan. It was dairy free. But, you know, I was still preparing meat. And so after a day of work, a day of shuffling kids around, you know, supporting and being a spouse and a partner, the last thing I wanted to do was cook 2 meals where the recipes I felt at the time were a little bit more intense. So it was a little bit more than what I was willing to do. And so I kind of put that to the side and said, okay, what am I going to do? About a year or so earlier than when I found Dr. Greger, I had a friend on Facebook that I knew in college who was a physician who saw like a drastic change in her weight in her pictures. And she was a doctor, so of course she wasn't posting much. You know, just kind of maybe pictures of her at concerts, and you could clearly see the weight loss. And I remember her posting a picture with a book saying, hey, my friend wrote a book about weight loss, and finally spilling the beans like, this is what I did. Never telling us the whole time that that's what she did. But again, she didn't really post much, so no big deal. But I'm like, oh, okay, you know, what is that? So that was Weight Loss for Busy Physicians, How to Lose Weight for the Last Time. So it's by Katrina Ubel. And I don't physically have the book. I'll talk about that in a sec. But so again, the book is How to Lose Weight for the Last Time, Brain-Based Solutions for Permanent Weight Loss. And it's from the founder of Weight Loss for Busy Physicians, Katrina Ubel. And that's Ubell. So Katrina Ubel is a doctor, and she wrote a book about how to lose weight for the last time. And I was like, okay, well, busy physician, busy mom, why not? And so, like I said, I don't have the book physically because I first got the audiobook from my library. As soon as it came out, I was put myself on the wait list because there was a wait list at that point. I got on the wait list in October of 2021, I believe. So I got on the wait list October of 2022, and I finally got the book in February of 2023. That's how many people needed to read it. And I only had 14 days to read it. And it was the audiobook, and I believe I got through most of it. I didn't get through all of it. I did, once I realized like my time was coming to an end, I kind of skimmed the last little bit. Decided to give it a go, but in all reality, it was probably, half attempt. Because I hadn't read the book fully. So I was like, okay, stop playing. You really need to read the book. And I went back to the library, and at that point got the physical book. I am clearly mostly a physical book person. So I was like, let me stop playing with myself and let's dive deep and get serious about it. So I went and got the physical book at my library. And I read it, and it changed my perspective. It changed, people say, oh, it changed my life. Well, it changed my life. At some point I will go into more details about her book. I don't want to give too much away, because I encourage everyone to go read the book and support. But at the same time, I do want to share my journey. I want to share what I've learned, what I've done. And I think it would be good for people to kind of get an insight so people can see whether or not they think it would work for them. But, it by no means is a diet. It is what you decide you're going to do. And it definitely deals with the emotions of eating, but it's not the overarching theme. It's more of being in tune with yourself. And I know that might sound like really high level, spiritual. It's to me, my opinion, it's not that. It gives some good foundation, some good science to it. I ventured out to put a good effort, like 100% in, I would say, in September or October of 2022. And by December of 2023, I had lost half of my goal weight, which was about 25 pounds. And I felt great. And I only ended that because I had major surgery. And so I had a hysterectomy. And so I wanted to make sure that I put all that to the side and focus my mental health on healing and gave my body whatever it said it needed. And then, of course, that flew into the Christmas holiday and Kwanzaa. And then that flew into a 7-day cruise. Over New Year's. And so on that cruise, I and even leading up to that point, I found that I was still aware of what I was doing. I was still tuned in to my hunger and what wasn't hunger, what was thirst. I wasn't tuned into the scale. I was tuned into what an exception meal was. I knew, hey, I am eating bread. Hey, I am eating sugar. That's not normally on your protocol. And so even though I didn't stop myself from doing those things, I was just naturally aware, and there was no guilt in it. There was no shame in it. I enjoyed my vacation. I was aware that I was snacking because the buffet had just opened, or hey, we're walking by the cafe, let's grab, whatever. I was aware of it. And surprisingly, through it all, when I went to check back in with myself in January, now that that's passed, I've had 2 post-op. I am great. I am ready to move on. I'm preparing myself to go back to work. Let's be for real now. Let's get it together. Let's be for real. So in doing that, I checked back in. I was the same weight. Now I had checked in earlier and because of doctor's appointments, and saw that the number was up, but it wasn't back to pre-weight at all. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to share this. I need to share. I need to document. I think for myself, I think it'll help me continue to be accountable. We'll see, and that's a good thing about the protocol. We can kind of do what you see fit. But I'm excited. I'm excited about that, and I want to again share and document the journey because I am curious. Is this really going to help me lose this weight for the last time? Another big thing about this that I kind of want to mention, in case you're watching this and trying to decide whether you're going to watch any of the other videos and embark on this journey with me, is that she actually encouraged you to not exercise, and I did not exercise during that time period. So, that's not to say I'll never exercise again a day in my life, because I don't see that being the case. But I thought it was interesting that I was able to achieve these results. My numbers were fine. I have had blood work for surgery several times. Numbers were always fine, no different than they were in terms of, cholesterol and stuff like that. No different than what they were when I've been as a vegan this other time. So that's another piece of it too. I want to make sure that, vegans can see that, things happen. And even when you eat a vegan lifestyle, once you've been on that vegan diet for a while, things still could change, and you could still find yourself in a position where you need to lose weight. And I think this is a good opportunity to share that experience. So I hope you come along. I hope you join. Definitely subscribe, turn on your notification bell, like this. Give me a comment. Let me know. Got a question, something you want to see, something you want to hear, something you want to learn more of. Thanks for watching. See you next time.